Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kostubadas. Welcome to the show. It's episode 1399, everyone. 1399 episodes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're here live with Miss Mara spinning the dials, and Kostuba, live in New York City. How are you?
Good.
Good. See, I waited for your response.
Very good.
Meeting up with the Wisdom of the Sages posse tonight for Something Divine with Tom Essig's movie in Arlington, Mass. Josh Kane's going to be there.
Okay.
Lori Pagan, the Chief, going to be there. Martine, Timothy Tuck. We got our posse showing up.
Nice.
Mayor,
When you heading out there?
When are we going? Well, we're going to go around noonish.
Okay. Make a day of it.
We're going to have a little day. We're
How
going to
long
have a
does it take you
little
to get
day.
to Boston? Like 3 hours?
2.5. Same, exact same to New York City.
Nice.
Maybe even a little closer.
Ready for announcements?
Hit me.
All right. If you have questions about our new platform, wisdomofthesages.com, or the tools and resources available as a supporting member, we're holding 2 30-minute demos and Q&A sessions today. One is at noon Eastern time and the other's at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So you just go to wisdomofthesages.com and click on calendar, and there'll be a link to join. So we hope to see you there.
Do you have to be a member to do that?
No, I think it explains. I don't
To
think
explain
so.
what
Yeah.
it's like if you're not a member, and then if you're a supporting member, then all the other stuff that opens up.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Wisdom of the Sages is going to Govardhan Eco Village for our Light on Wisdom training, January 12th through 24th.
Excited about that.
Yeah, so you can learn yoga wisdom in depth and have all your questions answered in a supportive environment. It's an opportunity not to be missed. Go to wisdomofthesages.com for more info and to register.
Okay.
Very good, Mara. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So now you go for that. You go down that left-hand column, and you get to the space where it says retreats, right? Retreat. And then it'll list.
Yeah,
it there.
big thanks to Linda, everybody on the team and the website. They're so
Nityananda
impressive.
Chandra's been doing a lot of service with
Nityananda
that.
Chandra, Matt Jaffe,
Miguel.
Brother Nature, Miguel. It's unbelievable. So many people behind the scenes helping this podcast. It's very, very, there's something about the community on the podcast. It's just, we got, this is actually what we're moving to. It's Walk on Wednesday today, everybody. So we have a special Walk on Wednesday. And Ishri Sundari, we're going to bring on. She is Sage Group leader and does a lot of service for this podcast. Ishri, welcome to the show. And by the way, if you're new to Walk on Wednesday, we bring a guest on for about 10 minutes, pick their brain a little bit. And she's going to talk a little bit about Sage Groups and why it's very critical to, because we just wanted to do a podcast. But this has turned into a very,
we didn't even want to do a podcast. That's
we
not
didn't
how
want
it
to do.
started.
Yeah, we just wanted to do a class every morning,
Just
reading the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
That's all. We just wanted to sit. We were happy with like 20 people or 30 people, and it's turned into a whole international thing. And the Sage Groups and more. Then it became a podcast. We're like, okay, this is a podcast. This is serious. But then it just became more of a community, and the community people have, very close relationships. People date, people marry from Wisdom of the Sages.
Have we had
A marriage?
We have. At least one I can think of.
Yeah. No divorces yet, I don't think, but marriages. We've had. But Ishri Sundari, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Howdy, both, everyone.
How are you?
Sundari, she's got an interesting story how she came to Bhakti.
Should I go with that first or Sage Groups first? Which one?
Let's hear your story, how you came.
I
don't know the story yet. I just got a hint of it, so I'm very curious.
Yeah, you got a little hint of it. So I've known about the Hare Krishna movement since I was a very little girl, probably younger than 5 years old. My mother worked in Manhattan, down by One Liberty Plaza, which was across the street from the Twin
You were
Towers.
living
So
in
we used
Jersey
to
City,
be,
or
I'm sorry?
you were living in Jersey City?
We owned a house in Jersey City, so we were really close to Manhattan. Plus, we went to Manhattan quite a bit. We had friends there, so we would often see the brahmacharis doing, their chanting and stuff. Who knows if I've seen Prabhupada or not? Probably. I was born in '67, so 5 years old was still in the early '70s for me.
You
Um,
bumped into Srila Prabhupada.
I wish. I think I did. I feel like I did.
Okay, feel like you did.
You're just gonna claim it. Just claim it. I
just
saw
claimed it,
Prabhupada when I
yeah.
was 6, most likely.
He
I
blessed
can't
me.
walk into
gave me
Second
special-
Avenue without crying, and because dude, I think you've seen me a couple of times. Every time
Yeah.
I go into that
Yeah,
Second Avenue matches, guys, it's like this incredible
that's
tears
the
just
proof.
come out.
that's the proof right there. She was there
Yeah.
when she was a little girl.
Yeah, so we used to sing the Maha Mantra, it used to be kind of be like some Spanish, jingles in the car, and then some row, row, row your boat. So all those kind of like fun stuff, but then it would be followed by the Maha Mantra. So like my whole family knew the Maha Mantra growing up. It was something that was just part of our car rides to the beach or
That's
to
very
Lancaster. Yeah, so
interesting.
but then fast forward to about 2014, I go to Munajaya, who's my friend, spiritual mentor, yoga teacher, recommended that I do some seva because I wanted something more spiritual than just regular volunteering,
Yeah.
which is spiritual. But she goes, I think you should go to the Bhakti Center. And I had no idea it was a Krishna temple. I just thought it was a yoga studio. So they kept telling me to go up to the temple, and I'm like, God, deities, dolls, temple, what, Bhagavat, what class? And so one day I had the courage to go upstairs, and as I'm walking up the stairs, the brahmachari comes down, and sometimes I blurt out things that don't come out right, but I just stopped him and said, you guys are still around? And I knew right away where he was, who he was, and everything. And he goes, like, Mataji, like he didn't understand me. I go, you're Hare Krishna. It's like Hare Krishna. And then I'm like, oh wow. So something just happened to me at those stairs at that moment that I knew I'd found that, what I need to fill my
You came
God
full
shaped
circle.
hole with. So that was it. And I made it to the temple. I did not have my contacts or glasses on, so I thought Prabhupada was a real person. It worked out because I
You're like,
didn't
he's
want
still
to
here. I did see Prabhupada.
I did see Prabhupada. But I walked up because I didn't want to interrupt this very serious sage-looking guy sitting there. But I did make it up, and then slowly but surely felt more confident, and with the guidance of great association, just found my path. And there's other funny stories doing seva there, not knowing who Radha Swami was or Danadar Swami was, and all the sorts of funny things I would say and do. And
Wow.
You
that's
started doing service
keep-
there, working at
keep
the
those
front
a
desk
secret.
and all that, right?
Yeah, I was working the front desk when the new desk was built out.
Yeah.
In the front, and yeah, and that was about 2015 or 14 or 16, something like that. And yeah, I remember Radhanath Swami coming down the stairs, and I had no idea where everybody was on the floor. So I'm looking over the desk, like, what's wrong with everybody? And he stands in front of me, and he just stares at me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. And then I'm like, yay, smiling, and then he goes, thank you, and I'm like, for what? And he's like, for your service. And I'm like, no problem. Literally snapped my finger, and I never snap fingers, but it was just like, oh, no problem. I love doing this. So that's just,
But I think
it's
we first
embarrassing.
met you at Devotion Yoga in Hoboken, right?
Yes.
Teacher trainings there and stuff like that.
Yeah. I did my advanced teacher training there. I was there for classes in between as I was doing my apprenticeship.
Right.
And you would come to teach bhakti classes there.
Well, and
Aw.
now you're serving Wisdom of the Sages, helping us get all the sage groups together.
Yeah.
Yes. And a shout out to, Raj Vihari also, and Shri Rupa, who was kind enough to sit in for me while I had spine surgery last September, and
Oh, yeah.
she's taken up the coordination behind the scenes to, another level of
She's very organized.
perfection and organized. Yeah, it
Dedicated.
takes a team. It is a lot of work.
Mhm.
So I just want to say I do appreciate her. It's not just me behind the scenes anymore. And Raj has always been there as our counselor and guidance. And yeah, so for those of us who do not know Sage Groups yet, it's a great way to connect weekly online. And it's not just with people nearby, but it's people all over the world. I have made friendships everywhere. And it's, I mean, I've been to Vrindavan. I was at Gopinath temple, and I see Loka there, and I just went up to her, and she's a leader, and I'm like, hi, how do you go? And she's like, who are you? And I'm like, at the time, not initiated. I'm Isabel, Sage Group. She's like, she was so shocked, but it's just such a wonderful feeling, And then I was just in Gainesville, and I went to the Alachua, temple in Mangalarti. I see Kadasi, who's also temple, she's also a Sage Group leader. And then on my way back, I was invited to crash in Hillsborough, North Carolina with one of my Sage Group members. And she invited me over. She goes, why don't you crash here? It's your midway to New Jersey, as I was driving back. And I was able to stay at a devotee's house, go visit the temple there, meet new people. I mean, it
You'll
just
save a lot of money this way. Just-
Yeah, it's join a Sage group. It's
bed and breakfast or
it's so
Airbnb
good.
or anything anymore.
ching.
And it wasn't even about saving the money. It's staying in a devotee's house, and it's just
Yeah.
so Krishna conscious all over. Like, I had the best sleep of my life. And then
Very
I
good.
was greeted with prasad, and then the next day to go to the temple in the morning, I met Mother Kamalini, and I got to see their Govardhan Hill. They have like this little
Very
Govardhan Hill.
special.
It is special, but how would I do this if I didn't have association through Wisdom of the Sages and Sage Groups? So, so to meet people all over the world, and it's a great way to, they're small group settings. There are a couple of groups that are a little larger just because of their particular theme. But, it's a great way to learn, inquire, share about Bhakti Yoga. And I have here the numbers. So registration for session 8 opened on Saturday, this past Saturday. And
What are the dates for session 8? When does it begin? When does it end?
The registration runs until the 26th. So I just want to make sure that people know that, because it's coming up real soon. And then session 8 will run September 2nd to December 15th. So it's going to be a little longer than the summer sessions. We figured, we'll do a couple of smaller sessions just to give the leaders a break, but also sometimes it's hard to commit to longer sessions. So this 8-week session, I think, went really well. It was a little sad to end yesterday. I ended mine last night. I did a singles group, by the way. I did a single parents, and it went really well. I'm not going to do it for this longer session, but I'll do it again for the shorter session. So I know we've been trying to put that out there for a while, and it went actually really well. And a couple of people were sad I'm not doing it this next session, but I will bring it back just because of that reason. And I think it went well. So I posted on the chat the Wisdom of the Sages Sage Group page, so you can go there and register. And if you have any questions, comments, anything, recommendations, we have a new email address. So we were using sagegroups108@gmail. We're switching that to sagegroups@wisdomofthesages.com. That's also in the chat. And just a couple little things that I was asked to please remind everybody. But before I do that, I just want to tell you yesterday's stats at about 12 o'clock. So it's probably even higher now, but total slots are 276 for this session. Filled slots 222 already, and it hasn't even been a week.
Wow.
Good, tight.
Yeah, available 54 spots as of yesterday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So we filled up about 81% already.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
What if I want to join a Sage group, and then I'm looking here, but there's not so many spaces left, and there doesn't seem to be one at a time slot that works for me? Is there any hope?
Yes, depending on the group, if it's one of the larger groups, it might not be as easy because some people have like 14, 15 people in them because of their specialized theme. But for the most part, leaders will be okay with letting others in. You just have to email us.
Or could they email us, and then we could see, oh, there's a bunch of people that kind of need something on an evening on a Monday or something like that, then we can try to put together a group at that time. We kind of adjust.
Yeah,
like
so
that
we
if
have
need to.
already done that. We have a lot of emails coming in, and we have
Hawaii,
added
the
a
Hawaiians
couple.
needed a good time, right? It's the Hawaiians were kind of stuck.
Which one?
People from Hawaii, they were saying like there's nothing that works for us, I think. Wasn't there something like that?
I think I think we have like now groups from 6 a.m. in the morning Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. I'm doing one on Friday, see how that goes at 12 p.m. We have 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're really trying hard to accommodate the times, for everybody. But yeah, write in and let us know, and we'll figure it out.
Don't give up.
No, we
Make it
don't give
work.
up. That was one of the things they wanted me to share with you, that we have added additional time zones, but keep writing in. The more we know, the better we can serve you. And just a couple of important reminders. This came from Shirupa and Linda. To commit to attending to the regular meetings. The attendance is important because it builds the bond within the group and consistency also. Leaving your cameras on whenever possible. We understand sometimes people are coming home from work and have to cook or do whatever, but if you could leave the cameras on, at least when you're speaking or sharing. But for the most part, you know,
Leave
leave
them
the
on. We
cameras
want to
on.
connect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to see a face.
We do, yeah. And if you've signed up for a group and then you realize if you committed and you know and you can't commit to it, like sometimes things happen, please let your Sage group leader know if you already have their contact information, but also let us know by emailing us at sagegroups@wisdomofthesages.com.
Don't just ghost them.
No, please don't ghost them.
It's an
not
offense
fun.
to ghost a Sage group leader, I think.
Well, when people join and then something happens and they don't show up for like, you know, a few meetings, we worry. We're concerned. Are you okay? Did something happen? So it's nice to let us know, like, and for the most part, people have, but sometimes people just ghost. That's so
Maybe there should be a
hurtful.
ghost themed group.
Ghost
Yeah.
theme, like no one shows up, but they're there. They're in disguise. How about a disguise group, like a sort of a carnival type of a
Every
thing?
day you have to come in with a different disguise and people have to try to guess who's who.
Oh God.
I'd like to be in that.
You can lead
Sage
that.
group.
You can lead that group.
Yeah, I would love that, actually.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, if you have been a group member and you would want to share a short story about your experience, please also email us at sagegroups@wisdomofthesages.com.
Excellent. Thank you
Those
so much
stuff
for all
here.
that you're doing.
Ishri Sundari, Shrupa, Linda, all so grateful for all you guys. It's really
Making
a
it all
wonderful
happen.
thing. And people who sort of like we've known as devotees for a while, but they're not necessarily part of Wisdom of Sages. They're like, wow, what you guys are doing, it's so exciting. I was just like, yeah, the thing has taken on a life of its own because it's exciting when it's very, very exciting when new people get into bhakti because there's that romancing of Krishna that goes that comes with
Romantic.
people who are just sort of like severing ties with the material world and falling in love with Krishna. And it's a very, very beautiful thing to witness, just like when two young people are falling in love, which is very charming. It is, right? That's sort of charming.
You know what was the saddest thing about Sage groups though?
The end,
When
or
Mara stopped doing it.
are they eternal?
When Maris walked away from it, she just walked away.
Just walking away. You ghosted your Sage
Everybody's
group,
like,
Mara?
"Don't walk away, Mara."
It was the end of the session, but
She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna
you know,
come
we
back."
travel so much; it's difficult when we're in India and Nepal.
Yeah, it's hard
things
to be
like that.
regular.
Yeah,
You know, the people
but
still
I
want
gotta-
it.
had a great Sage group. I really miss them.
You see?
You step into my chapels, you'll see.
Well, we've been thinking of having like special guests in some of the groups, or if you guys can come on maybe when we have our
Ooh.
meetings, our leaders meeting or members meeting. So maybe
I'll be
Mara.
a special guest. Can I be one?
Yes,
Or do you want
Mara,
just Mara?
Raghunath, The both of you would be fine if you let her talk, though.
Let her
No,
talk.
there's no talking. There's absolutely not. She doesn't talk. What can I do? I have to pinch her to make her talk.
You know, it is a great way. You know, obviously it's great because there's some spiritual discussion and questions. You can put forward questions and share what you're going through, and all. But also just like you're saying, just making friends. You know, you join. You say you in 1 year. How many sessions are there in 1 year? 3.
There were 3, I think, this coming year before with the
it's 4
shorter
sessions.
sessions. Yeah,
2 short sessions, 2 long sessions. So like 2 8-week sessions and 2 16-week
14.
14-week sessions.
You know, I love this thing that you mentioned
Well,
also.
Raghunath, I was making a point.
Oh,
If you
okay. I
don't
thought,
mind.
I thought you were just asking about the sessions,
That's
sir.
right. No, so
Go on.
but I was saying, so if you in 1 year you could join 4 groups, connect with 28 people, and make 28 friends. Out of those 28 people, you're gonna have some people that you really connect with, and you share with, and you stay in touch with, and like you're saying, even bump into, stay in their home, different things like that. So it's great. All right, Raghu. what do
Is
you
that
say?
one of the rules? If you're in a Sage group, you have to let people stay in your home.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
Actually, no, I was thinking like it's actually so nice because part of culture nowadays is we isolate ourselves. We isolate ourselves from our family very often. We don't live near our parents very often. We don't live near our brothers and sisters very often. So when we do travel, it's very isolated. Oftentimes, you get a hotel or go somewhere. Like we were going to Arlington tonight, and first thing Lori Pag and the chief were like, "Stay with us, come on, stay with us, it'll be fun." It's just like we have this community, and it's almost like how when I was growing up, I don't know if you guys did this. I had pen pals. I had pen pals that I kept in touch with, and we'd
You were
end
the
up.
nerdiest little kid playing your sousaphone, got your pen pal, your ELO belt buckle. What was going on?
You're keeping a
How did
list
you
of all
become
my.
a punk rock leader in a punk rock band?
I had pen pal friends that I'm still friends with.
Stamp collection.
I collected stamps and coins. Yes, I did. You trying to paint me out to be this nerdy kid?
I'm not painting you out.
Sega had pen pal friends too. Thank you. Jonathan Pretty still has
No,
pen
it's
pal
not.
friends.
It's cool to have a pen pal. There's nothing wrong with
But anyway, this is the new pen pal. It's like Krishna conscious pen pals.
it. Right.
You can text them now. You can come visit them when you're traveling. It's exciting. Thank you, Sage Groups, and thank you, East Ferry G.
Okay.
I wanted to give a shout out because I think he might listen to the show, but back in the day when you were 5 years old seeing Prabhupada walking the streets of Manhattan, there was a devotee who used to have a food cart
Oh yeah.
by the World Trade Center. I used to always go to Jerry Williams, I think. No, it's Jerry. That's the guy from CBGB's. Jerry. I can't just call him Jerry, but
Yeah.
but
He would give you so much food for like you get this huge, those like kind of aluminum tin.
you
Kind
just
of,
fill it up. If you were a devotee too, just because he didn't look like a devotee, he didn't like, but he would. I think he had books on his food cart, and
Yeah.
he'd always
Had a food cart, Prasadam food cart street on the sidewalks right down by the World Trade Center.
right by the World Trade Center. He was a great, and then I think he moved, but I think he sent us a message when the Wisdom of the Sages just started. So shout out to you, Jerry. I think he moved to Thailand or something. Shout out to you, Jerry, for feeding us.
Was it 9/11 that kind of ended that?
I think it was
stretch, I
9/11 that
Yeah.
stirred everything up. People moved out of New York.
Yeah, you go down there and he'd fill you up, man.
Fill me up, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, good
Right there on the
memories.
street. It was nice.
I do think that Ishri Sundari might have been touched by Srila Prabhupada because when you said how she got into bhakti, I was expecting some long drawn out story, but really she just like the family was singing Hare Krishna in the car on the way to the beach.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, she meets a Hare Krishna in the temple and she's like, "Okay, I'm in." I was like, "Wow, that was easy." Anyway, everyone's got a good story, huh?
Okay, we ready to go now?
right.
There's no nugget.
I'm always ready. There's no nugget today. We're going right into the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam madhirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is every means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistid Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Text 20.
Little recap.
Going through the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Gus back there, he looks like a polar bear on a shrinking iceberg that's about to be finished. He's like, I'm about
Global
to be extinct.
warming is ruining his life. He's like,
okay. So, yeah, we're winding up the entire canto now. And which is, we've been in for the whole year, right? Since January we started.
Yeah.
And 7th canto. And it's ending with these instructions for the householders, for the grihastas, as they're called in Sanskrit. And Narada's just given some beautiful advice here that really has to do, yesterday was all about contentment, right? This idea that once, our tendency is that once we get a little comfort, once we get a little pleasure, once, we just want more and more and more.
Yeah.
And then we drift from our mission, We got to have a mission in life. And that mission is a spiritual, mission that we want to stay focused. We want to perceive truth. We want to experience the true nature of the self. We want to relate to every living being as spirit. And we want, and in this way, become released from all these shackles that keep us bound to lower levels of consciousness, to anger and greed and depression and all that kind of thing. So he's warning, he's out of from the, not from some kind of judgmental place, but from like from the, from his heart. He's sharing that we really need to be careful that we don't get too caught up in the materialism that's available to us when we're householders, when we have jobs and money and homes and sex and all of that is wide open. So he's saying, but if you can live with the presence of God in your heart, you can feel it, then you can feel contentment. It's like you won't feel empty if you feel God in your heart. You'll always feel full, no matter no matter how simple the circumstances are, and you won't be driven by the demands of your senses, because I need to fill that God hole.
Sure.
God, what is it called? God-shaped hole in the heart.
God-shaped hole.
Yeah.
Putting anything in that hole except for God. I know it. And it's just one of the wandering senses is enough for mission drift.
Oh,
You know,
big time drift.
mission
Right
drift.
over
You're
the
just like
cliff.
drifting.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Waterfall.
it's sort of like if you've got like a magnet near a compass, it can throw you completely off.
Big time.
You ever hear this story? There's a good little squirrel. Speaking of magnets throwing people off, on the top of the yeah, what's the temple in Orissa, where the Surya temple?
Konark Temple.
The Konark temple.
Mhm.
The top of the Konark temple was like, I think, the world's biggest magnet. Just
You
some
love this.
gigantic, some gigantic keystone of a magnet. And there were temples in India at this time where the deities were made of things that the deity would float in the sky. There was some
Because
type
of
of
that magnet.
magnetic engineering where they made the deity. So when you walk in that temple, imagine seeing that temple, a giant deity floating
That'd
due
be
to this
powerful.
magnet. I would have surrendered to God right there.
Are
But
people allowed in that temple anymore? It's just from the outside you look at it, I think, huh?
You go in it, but it's been, the Muslims wrecked it. They just trashed the whole
But do
thing.
they let people in?
It's sort of like in and out. It's like one of the old school temples. It's like
I've been there before, but I just remember kind of observing it from the outside.
Yeah, those temples are half outside, inside anyway. So it's sort
But
of
do
open.
they let you into the inside half?
Yeah.
Okay. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, magnet. What were we talking about? Oh,
Magnet.
and the magnet. I heard the Portuguese were in on the desecration of this temple because that magnet used to throw their compasses, because it's right on the sea. It used to
So
throw their
strong.
compasses off.
That's
It
crazy.
was that powerful.
All right.
Could be an urban legend, but that's what I heard.
Urban myth.
Maybe not a myth. Could be.
Okay. All right.
Urban legend means it could have some truth.
All right. So we ended yesterday hearing this really fascinating verse, and it's a warning. It's a warning for grihastas. I think it's also just a very pertinent warning for people that play a role, like a spiritual role in life.
Yeah.
That it says, because of greed and for the sake of the senses, this is what will happen. This is what you'll lose: the spiritual strength, the education, the austerity, your reputation as a devotee or as a brahmana. If you're not self-satisfied, all that dwindles. It just seeps out the gaps. You got to tighten it up a little
On
bit.
Wisdom of the Sages, we say a slippery slope. And a slippery
Okay.
slope is where you step 1 foot out, one of those wandering senses. Here's the warning. It's given it in Bhagavatam terms. Yesterday, we said you're going to lose your good qualities, your austerity, your character, your self-respect, right? People are going to lose respect for you. You lose it all by just one of those wandering steps. And then it's just like you went a little bit too far, and now you're sliding quickly right to the bottom. It can drag you right down. So there's
And you
all these
know,
warnings in Sanatana Dharma Vedic culture,
very important to
big
meditate on this regularly, right?
big guardrails.
Yeah. You know, we hear all the time about quote unquote gurus, you know, these big people in the yoga world or whatever, and people are seeing them as like spiritual leaders, or, you know, some kind of gurus or something like that. And then we hear about them just, you know, that their scandals and this and that. And, you know, it's not necessarily that they were just crooked from the beginning or something like that, you know. They may
Yeah,
have been, but it may have been that they actually had something spiritual going on, and people were connecting with it, but they didn't really understand how this works. Is that if you don't, as you're getting the material
juju,
results of
juju.
this, the fame, maybe money, you know, reputation, so on, if you're trying to enjoy, if you're not content without that,
Sure.
then you're going to start reaching for that, and now you become a hypocrite. Now you're talking about spirituality, but you're trying to enjoy the material realm. All that you had, your knowledge, your austerity, your reputation, your learning, it starts to seep out.
You know,
And then you're kind of like this hollow shell. There's nothing really spiritual in there anymore. And as we were saying yesterday, then you have two choices, right? Either you turn around and build it back up and get, you know, practice contentment, or you fake it, you know. And that's a path that a lot of people will take, you know. That's okay. Well, now I'm put on an external show of being
I've got a bunch
spiritual.
of followers. You know, it is tricky because, and I think you made a great point, because whenever we hear about a scandal, we usually condemn the person, say, you know, this person's always been evil and crooked and
Yeah,
manipulative. But oftentimes they were in a position where they had charisma and they, you know, some material
something to
shakti, so to
share, maybe.
speak, something to share. They had good intentions. They performed austerity, and they developed and they inspired people, and that went along pretty good. And then what happens when that material juju, when that good karma
Juju.
comes, we don't even, and we should understand this within ourselves, that how would we change if all of a sudden good karma dumped blessings, material blessings on our lap?
Yeah, it's
How
hard
would
to
we
handle.
deal with lots of fame? How would we deal with lots of money? How would we deal if people started falling all over us? It becomes overwhelming. And even if you had it zipped up in a small community, in a small village, it on the big stage, you might crumble. So sometimes that success can, you know, wreck your life.
Yeah.
And Krishna will give us these tests. We're going to get these tests. If we want Krishna, we're going to get offered all things in the same way the devil brought Jesus, right, up to the top of the city, and maybe it was Jerusalem or something. He said, you see all these? You see all these cities? You can have it all. You can have it all, Jesus. You want it? I'm going to give it to you. And Jesus said, don't want it.
Content.
I don't want it. I'm good. This is not what I'm here for.
Not today, Satan.
Not today. It's very
So,
powerful.
so the opposite of contentment is greed. And we're going to hear just two more verses where Narada is just really warning about greed. He's kind of categorizing greed as unique, because a lot of these other, what do you want to call them? Like vices, I suppose.
Mhm.
They can be satisfied in a certain way. He's going to talk about that, but greed is never satisfied. So why don't we check in on text number
Text
20?
20. The strong bodily desires and needs of a person disturbed by hunger and thirst are certainly satisfied when he eats. Yeah. Similarly, if one becomes very angry, that anger is satisfied by chastisement and its reaction.
Like if you're really angry at someone and you just vent, then you can
You
walk
use
away.
that
Like,
like a
okay,
little
I feel
road
better.
rage. What the heck?
Yeah.
You've never seen me road rage, right? No. But as I keep it private, I was like, what does this guy think he is? I have private road rage. But as far as greed, even if a greedy person has conquered all the directions of the world or has enjoyed everything in this world, still they will not be satisfied.
Yeah, it's just like you can anger. It's not a good thing to have in you, but you can vent and you kind of feel like, okay, it left my mind, it left my consciousness, it left my body. Hunger, yeah, you eat, you satisfy, but greed, it's of a different nature, It'll never be satisfied. You got to confront it.
So interesting, huh?
Mm,
So interesting.
very interesting. Okay.
O
Then
King
21, one
Eudasteer,
last verse about that.
O King Eudasteer, many persons with varied experience, many legal advisors, many learned scholars, and many persons eligible to become presidents of learned assemblies fall down into hellish life because of not being satisfied with their positions.
See that?
Sure.
See that?
I want to go out and lash out at politicians out of like these, you know, ultra wealthy 1%. It's like, how much did they want to make?
yeah, right. It's
Like how much money is enough? Like, what do they want to control? But
Yeah.
then I think, like, who am I to say? Why don't I just stop blaming them for their, they know how to run a business, or and
Well,
like
it's
start
one thing to
looking at
just
my. Well,
blame.
I know, you're right. It's one thing to run a business, another thing to like rape people, but what would I do if I was in that situation? It's really easy to point fingers until you have that incredible good
Well, so
fortune.
yeah, so we want to really focus on ourselves, and they say like even the pauper is proud of the penny, right? Like greed is not only something in the hearts of the super wealthy, it's in the
Sure,
hearts of all of us in different ways.
sure.
Yeah. So there's this thing called the Peter principle. You know the Peter
Peter,
principle? Yeah.
I don't know it.
Peter principle means, I guess it's a thing like, people that study leadership or I don't know. But the idea is that you keep rising up, like say you come into a business or corporation or something like that. And if you're good, then you rise to the next level. And if you excel on that level, then you rise to the next level. And if you excel
Right.
on that level, and they think it's always, you always should be rising, like that's success. But actually, usually what happens is you keep rising until you rise to the level of your incompetence, like until you rise to a level that's kind of beyond you. And then what
Right.
happens is you got all the people are in levels that are beyond them. So it's not good for the corporation. You got to know like right where your level is at. This isn't exactly like that, but it's kind of like that. In other words, it's saying there's a greed even for people that are materially successful and they find high level positions, whether it's in scholarship or here it was talking about what did it say? Um, presidents or scholars, legal advisors. Um, you know, you're climbing up in the world and you're never satisfied with your position. You're seeing someone above you and you're feeling empty until you're above them.
Huh,
And it's not a formula for success. It's not a formula for happiness.
huh.
It's a formula for constant disturbed mind, a mind that can't become deeply absorbed spiritually, and a mind that's distracted from the goal of life. So you get your mission drift there. Nothing wrong with excelling in your field, but it not for the sake of being higher than someone else. That's
Right.
not,
Right. Right.
that'll drive you nuts.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that warning, now Narada is going to begin to speak about all of these, we call them anarthas, right? Artha means like, often the word artha is used, the Sanskrit word artha is
Wealth.
translated as wealth, but it can also, it can be understood as wealth, like in the sense of like something that's valuable. And anartha means that which is not valuable, that which we don't want. And so a lot of these things like lust, greed, anger, pride, illusion, envy, we call these anarthas. And there's a period in the spiritual path called anartha nivritti, right? Where through your spiritual practice, through bringing your mind to spiritual content, through letting go, the idea is that you can overcome these deeply rooted anarthas in the
It's
heart
so interesting, huh? It's like you're actually very deeply joyous
by nature.
by nature. You're
Yeah.
deeply joyous and ecstatic. In the Bhagavatam, after that verse, it says, and then the soul becomes happy. It's just like we're just contaminated by these different varieties of lusts: lust for things, lust for people, lust for places, lust for things. And then when it leaves, you just have this essential being, this godlike, you know, part
Pure,
of godlike,
shining.
shining light where you're just like joyous when the modes of passion and ignorance go away. So anarta nivriti, go on, Prabhu.
So now for the next through text 20 through 26 or so, he's going to speak about all these different anarthas, and he's just going to give quick analysis of how to overcome. How do you overcome lust? This way. How do you overcome anger? That way. How do you overcome greed? By doing this. How do you overcome fear? By doing that. It's a fascinating, you know, it's a just a fascinating little kind of like, what do they call that when you're getting interviewed at the end and they start to hit you with the quick questions?
Oh yeah,
Rapid fire, something
rapid
like that.
fire. Yeah,
So it's kind of like rapid fire answers to lives and arthas,
right.
to our vices in life, how to overcome our vices with the rapid fire answers. But they're very deep. You know, if you could go so deep into these answers. Right?
Really beautiful. Here is text 22. Here's text 21.
Text
Here's
22.
text 22. By
Maybe 23.
making plans with determination, one should give up lusty desires, desire for not just women or men, the stuff,
By
lusty
making
desires,
plans with determination.
desires for sense gratification. Similarly, by giving up envy, one should conquer anger.
So by envy, I think that especially means animosity, right? If I don't feel animosity towards anyone, my anger will just, that's where I need to concentrate.
Yeah. By discussing the disadvantages of accumulating wealth. It's pretty interesting. Huh? The disadvantages of accumulating wealth. One should give up greed. And by discussing the truth, one should give up fear.
Yeah, like, okay, let's just think about, discussing the disadvantages of accumulating wealth. What are the
That's
disadvantages?
a tough one. I think everybody, it seems like very natural that people they want to move up at the workplace. Who wants to turn down a raise? Who wants to turn down a position? But this literature makes you start to analyze what's happening and where you go from this consciousness. And we have
Yeah.
even as practicing devotees, I've millions of ways to justify it. I think the biggest one is a false security. A false security. We develop a false security in material fortune. Like when I was a brahmachari, I had no credit cards. That means anything could happen at any time, and you just have to figure it out and lean into God. Now I feel like, well, if something happened, I could just I got a credit card. I've got like a good credit where I could do this or do that. Our faith is less in God and more in our credit status.
Yeah.
That's one way, but there's millions of way that the Shastra analyzes the problems, the disadvantages. Another one that just came to mind I have sometimes when people have lots, they give their kids lots, and sometimes the kids don't turn out great from getting lots because sometimes it disempowers the child to do anything with their life. Even as
I
a
think
parent,
Warren Buffett has something like that where like he's got lots of grandkids and stuff, and he's not just giving them huge. He's kind of trying to help them, but he's not just giving them huge fortunes.
well, it's almost like a teenager. It's like you want to like support them, but you don't want to enable them. So when you have so much money and you want to give so much to your kids, I mean, you hear so many stories like this, even the stories of India, where the kids they start to hate the parents and wish the parents death, or in the cases of was it Shah Jahan, the Mughals, they imprisoned the 14-year-old son, killed the brothers because
Was
he
it
realized he
Aurangzeb?
wasn't the eldest. Huh?
Aurangzeb?
Aurangzeb killed his older brothers because he wasn't going to inherit anything, and imprisoned his father because he wanted to take the throne.
That's the problem with accumulating wealth right there.
That's a problem right there. You could have your son try to kill
But
you before
but
you're
there's all
ready to
kinds
give
of
it to him.
fear, and there's all kind of how it can affect your relationships. How could your mind is constantly absorbed in it. One of the it's just considered this like classic scene in films. You've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
I haven't.
Never?
Prabhu.
Oh, you
I-
fall asleep
no.
during movies.
Music and movies. Music and movies. You got that over me.
What
I've got like 70s television shows. That's what I got.
okay.
I own that.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is just like, it's about three men out in like the desert, but I think it's like Texas, like the Civil War is kind of passing through the area too.
Okay. I'll
So
watch
it's
this.
like, and they each get a clue of where this treasure is buried. Like one person knows that it's in a particular graveyard, and another person knows that it's in a particular grave. And so they realize they have to work together if they're going to get this if they're going to get this treasure, but their nature is just the vicious survival out in the desert. They're like reptiles themselves, they're just like you know and somehow they have to work together. And there's this one character who's just like he's just like the worst, like this. His name is Tuco, and
Tuco.
he's like 1 minute he's like dragging you through the desert and watching you suffer, and like there's one scene where he's walking the other characters, he calls him Blondie. It was like Clint Eastwood, and he's forcing him to walk through the desert till he dies. He's on a horse, he's got his umbrella, and he's got all his water, and he's just like making fun of him and taunting him the whole time, and he's drying out, and he washes his feet. This Tuco washes his feet like in the water,
Mm.
and like he has a little bucket of water, and then he's coming to, and Clint Eastwood's like
Yeah.
crawling to drink the water.
Tell me more.
And no, this is going somewhere right now.
Tell me more.
He's so cruel. He's crawling to drink the water, and his foot water, and then right as he's about to drink it, he kicks it over, it's just making him suffer. And then this ghost like carriage just running with horses without a driver
Yeah.
comes rolling in, and inside there's a guy that's giving him he's telling him where the treasure's at. Don't do run. Okay, you made your point. Hear me out. Try to hear me
I
out.
am. We're
You're not
all three of
listening
us
to
are
me. Now you're
listening
just
to your
like,
point right here. Me, Mara, and the squirrel.
and so it's in that like first Tuco's speaking to the guy that's dying, and he tells him the name of the graveyard, and he's like, now tell me the name of the grave. And he's like, you have to get me water first. You get me water, and I'll tell you the name of the grave.
Hmm.
So then Tuco's runs off to get water. He comes back and he's dead.
Oh no.
But then he sees that Clint Eastwood, who's almost dead, found out the name of the grave. And so they go through so much together. They struggle to survive. And as soon as he does that, as soon as Tuco finds out that he's got the secret, he's like, oh, well, Blondie, it's a good thing that you have me here. I'm your friend. And it's like, hold it, a second ago, you were torturing me, So like this greed is so intense. In the final scene, it shows Tuco. He's in the graveyard. It's a massive graveyard. It's like out in the desert, and this music starts to play, and the music was so good in that, like it's really expertly used, and the director's so good. And this music is so powerful, and showing Tuco just running through the graveyard, trying to find the grave, just like frantic. And you just see where greed drives you.
Mm.
It's just like it'll drag you down. It'll drag you down. So I just think it's a beautiful, what's not beautiful, but like visceral illustration of greed, in cinema. It's like that scene where Tuco's running through the graveyard trying to find it, and you know that he's gonna suffer in the end, But so therefore we need to talk about it, It's saying, we need to discuss what are the disadvantages of it. It's not don't approach it like a simpleton, but approach it like a sage, and try to see what in this realm that we're moving through, in this world that we're moving through, what is wealth, and how does a wise person engage with it? He may be wealthy, he may be dirt poor, but a wise person, will have a healthy, insightful way of dealing with it rather than letting themselves be controlled by it. And in order to have that, you need to discuss it.
You know what you need right now? Shelter lyrics.
Okay. What
My
you got?
one concern. Ready? This was when I was a brahmachari. I don't want wealth. What can it buy? What can I purchase that will satisfy? You want success? Well, you better invest. But there's still distress. Don't buy their lie. You got money in the bank? Think you're scot-free? False security, more anxiety, the desire to accumulate. It will never satiate. Another fish takes the bait. You know it's not the answer.
Oh.
What do you think about that?
Very nice.
Like
Very
that, Mara?
good. Very good. Watch that today, Raghunath.
By the way, I'm not above it. I just want to say I'm not above
Okay.
greed. And sometimes we do get it to a point in our spiritual life where we're like, I got it together now. We're not. We don't got
Really
it
not.
together. All
Right
we
down
got
to
to
the core. We all have
very,
to.
we're going to be offered everything. And we have to be able to say, I just want you, Krishna.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan.
Okay. All right. So that was, we heard about lust. We have to be making plans, he said, right? By making plans with determination. I'm going to be focused that I'm not going to get devoured by lust, right? With anger, we have to give up the objective for sense gratification.
And
For
your squirrel
greed-
took up the whole show, Prabhu.
No, it didn't. It just took up a couple minutes. Oh, we're out of time though, huh?
You're out of time.
Okay, well, we'll come back to this tomorrow.
Thanks to
We're gonna hear about
Toco.
all these artists. Watch it today, Raghunath. You'll learn from it. It'll be good. Watch Tuco running around. This is the question we all have to ask.
What?
Am I Tuco? Right? Am I being a Tuco?
Uh-oh, here we go. That's the takeaway. Am I Tuco
Am I
or
Tuco?
am I a squirrel? That is the question.
My inner Tuco. You got to deal with your inner Tuco.
Dealing with, we found the title for the show right there.
Yep.
All right, well, maybe we'll go with that.
All right, Miss Mara, give us some takeaways. We're going to get in the car soon. We're going to drive to Arlington, Massachusetts.
It's beautiful to witness the romancing of Krishna.
And if you're living on the way to Arlington, Massachusetts, we might come and stay with you.
Okay. Romantic. Hold it. That was a very.
Say it again.
It's beautiful to witness the romancing of Krishna.
Raghunath, I never knew you saw it that way.
Romancing Krishna. I've said that phrase a lot.
I never knew you had such sensitivity like that.
Romancing Krishna. God, yeah.
All right.
You won't feel empty when you feel God in the heart.
There you go.
You won't feel empty when you feel God in the heart. Yeah.
Just one wandering sense is enough for mission drift.
That was a good one, wasn't it? There's nothing worse than I laugh at my own jokes or
Give him a
pat
pat
myself
on the back, Merrick. Give him a
on the
pat.
back. Well, I give myself a lot of hell on a regular basis too. So this is the flip side of that.
The idea is that you don't do either. But it's okay.
Don't let your pious credits and spiritual wisdom seep out.
It'll slip away.
Don't let you go ahead.
If we want Krishna, he's going to test us.
Mm.
We get
Love is
tested.
tested, right?
Yeah.
Anger can be vented, but greed can never be satisfied.
Love
Never.
without anger. You know what that is?
Nope.
Devo.
Okay.
Okay.
Approach wealth like a sage.
Approach it like a sage.
And
Mm.
am I Tuco?
Am I
I
Tuco?
Am I Tuco?
What was your thing? Am I Tuco or squirrel? Hey, everybody. The Wisma Sages and the Chant Camp are filling up. So if you want to join us, go to my website, raghunath.yoga. Sign up for either one of those. Chant Camp is Labor Day, and Columbus Day is Wisdom of the Sages Retreat. Excited for
Oh,
that.
hey.
We're going to see
Amy
the
asked
crew.
about the picnic in Central Park. We gotta say it's not happening.
Picnic was canceled this weekend.
Bhakti Center just kind of wasn't quite ready for it.
Yeah.
Do it
We got to figure out what we're going to do on John Monstamy.